Hussein, before we start, of course, wanted to offer the condolences to the friends and family of the people who lost their lives today. I know it's been a very difficult day. Well, it's been a difficult one for us. It's even terribly difficult for them. So we would like to offer those condolences. In terms of the transportation of hazardous material as well as inflammable, there's a very, we have their regulations on how those are to be transported. But also it depends on the sector that these materials fall in. For example, on fuel, on gas, and the others. So I think what we need to ensure that actually we have, and at least that we ensure that it's regulated broadly, is actually transfer of any inflammable, and that information also needs to be disseminated all the way. Transfer. Like, what do you mean when you say transfer from? No, I mean disseminated to all level of even the officers, the people who are on the roads, who can actually be able to identify what kind of material is being transported. Right. Yeah. So this was, in fact, this is where we are, because there are a lot of questions still here that have not been answered. First, this was a canter, not a tanker. Yes. It was a canter. It was a canter. What exactly was it carrying? We've not identified 100% what it was carrying, but within the next few days, we'll actually we'll be able to identify 100% what it was carrying. Right, because we've been told by reporters at the ground, there was adhesive glue. We're told about gas cylinders. So my question is, if that was what was being carried, was it right for us to be carried by a canter? And the kind of packaging that should be done, how should it be done? What should be done? Is it right for the canter to carry such flammable materials? I think in terms of, for example, gas cylinders, you do have counters carrying gas cylinders, so that's not an issue. I think it's really about these other materials as well. And in terms of I think we just need to work on the identifying what can be carried and in what manner. I think we've made that very clear with things like petroleum, the liquefied gas, things that we use on a day-to-day basis because of the massive size, the volumes that we carry anyway. So I think what we need to be able to create right policies and structures for are these other items that are flammable and hazardous, but not necessarily in large quantities. So do we have that kind of framework now, or don't we have that? It's there within different agencies, but I think what it needs to do is disseminate it to the enforcing authorities, so that they know if, for example, they see a canter carrying something, they will know. So what are you saying? It wasn't done. The dissemination was not done. I think the dissemination, cascading it to the enforcement authorities, is what needs to be done. You're saying you still don't know what exactly was there, because on the scene today we saw chemical biological experts collecting samples in their gear. Yes. Why exactly did they go there? What were you thinking was there? What do they think is there? We have preliminary results on what was being carried, but until we get the final position, which hopefully is in a few days, then we are not. I'm not able at liberty to give that information. So as of now, what you're telling Kenyans is that we still do not know what exactly was being carried by that vehicle. We'll give the teams doing the investigation, the ones that you saw on the ground, a few days for them to carry out the investigation and then release that information. All right, I want to take a look at a few tweets here, because this has been, people have been really talking about this on social media platforms. This is Barack Muluka, is a political analyst who talks about the Naivasha disaster, saying, if you expect any heads to roll, you need to have viewers examined. A perfect photo opportunity for government top brass. That is him being really sarcastic. Okay, somebody here says, okay, then this, you feel NTSA, police or government is to blame, make it an election issue. Then we have, this is something that has been
there and people really talked about it. Wahome Thuku. This is something he wrote on his Facebook. He posted it on his Facebook. I don't know if you're aware of it. On the 14th of February. And he said, as you go down the highway towards Naivasha, just after Kinungi Trading Center, the government has erected 2 bumps smack on the hill. They were erected on Thursday evening, and now I can say that that is a black spot. Already there is evidence of broken glasses on one of them. Today we observed as motorists were forced to cut the speed from 100 kilometers to 10 kilometers in a matter of seconds to go over the bumps. Expect horrible accidents there. In fact, start preparing for fatal crash. Sadly, that has come to pass, and we hope it doesn't happen again. And we have somebody else who say, too many illegal bumps on Naivasha Nairobi Highway. How can we have such on a highway? And then Ken had responded, I think, saying the illegal bumps are a challenge on our major road corridors. We are sensitizing on the dangers of erecting illegal bumps. You talked about this today, and you said there was pressure from the residents around there in Karai who said they wanted bumps erected. Is that that's what you said?
Yes.
That is why the government decided to do that?
Not necessarily. What happened if the bumps were put there actually around January, and that's when there had been a number of accidents, and the residents of Karai actually came in and said they wanted bumps erected there. But on erecting the bumps, when we did, we actually also put the rubble strips just before the bumps on both sides. So what we are saying is the reason why we erect bumps is also, I think it's also for safety measures. So it can go both ways. Both ways,
yeah. But on this instance, it's because the residents asked for it, or because the government saw the need to do it.
There was a need.
Because some have been talking, experts have been talking. Kenya Motorists Association even wrote on social media platforms, and they say they even wrote even to NTSA, and they said this is a problem, having the bumps downhill and on a trunk road. It shouldn't happen. I think so how was the designing done? Who really came up with this?
I think, Hussein, what we need to do, we need to address our own characteristics as road users. As you're coming down that hill, down the escarpment, the kind of speeds that vehicles are also doing are actually what saw us having the number of accidents that caused an outcry for the residents of that region. We're actually having accidents on a daily basis.
Right.
And really that's why there was an outcry there.
Right.
So there was that need for us then to look at how do we bring down that speed. And yes, there were suggestions of the bumps, and we saw the bumps as a temporary measure as well. Because as we know, for example, we needed to have, even if it's the bridges, overpass, and all that. But the bumps are what we put in at that time.
Right.
And from there, we actually saw the number of accidents actually went down significantly.
So structurally, are you saying you stand by what the government did in terms of erecting the bumps there? It was necessary and it worked. That's what you're saying?
Yes. For at least for those short-term measures, it worked.
What are the long-term measures? Are the bumps going to still stay there, or what are you going to do?
I think the long-term measures, the long-term measures are very expensive, as you know. We do need to have, if it's broadening, expanding the highway, dividing the oncoming vehicles. So those are fairly long-term, at least within the cycle.
So in the meantime, with the hue and cry about the bumps and exactly where it has been put, you don't see a problem? As a temporary measures, you're saying they will stay there?
In terms of where they are, of course, the engineering, they will relook at the design, the positioning and all that. I think the team from infrastructure have committed to do that.
Right.
To just ensure that that is actually, they do not have any issues with them being positioned there. But also to appreciate that while these were put in January, this is actually the first case of that nature that has been reported a year later.
Right.
So I think we've had a whole year of no accident for us to condemn them immediately I think that's what I'm just saying.
That's
we
what
need
you're
to
saying.
actually look at it further.
Right,
Yeah.
but the same engineers who put it there before, obviously there was expert opinion
Yes.
in deciding to put it there.
Yes.
So it's not really a problem. But it's a problem in the country. There have been concerns about haphazard erection of speed bumps on roads across the country without proper signage. That I'm sure that you've heard of.
Yes.
How do you handle that?
I think
Especially the issue of signage.
the issue of signage has been a big challenge, and more so because of vandalism. Every time we put up signage, it gets vandalized within a week. So now we're actually discussing how best do we put signage that cannot be vandalized. And I think that's an area we also we are looking at. We've looked at different options, and I think hopefully we will be able to come up with something soon.
Right. Still, however, the numbers continue to rise. Sadly, this year alone, until 27th November, the number of people who died in road accidents, 2,655, still a very huge number. How do you think we're going to bring these numbers down, number one? And now we are going to a festive season. Do you have any plans as a government? What are you going to do?
I think, Hussein, first, if we were actually to compare with last year's, of course, the 2,600 is a huge number, yeah. But to compare with last year is actually a drop of about 4% between last year and
the
this
difference is actually about 65.
Yes, 65. Which
in that
comes
period,
about,
that is 27th November, as of 27th November.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So which is almost about 4%. And what we've put in quite a number of measures, which are paying off, and a lot more. If you look at the pedestrians, deaths have really come down. If you look at the PSV deaths, have really come down. What we haven't managed to bring down yet are personal vehicles as well as commercial, and that's why we've come up with regulations for commercial motor vehicles, which have not passed Parliament, but we've taken them there. And PSV, that's when there was that outcry on the testing, but also we are looking at also the driving licenses to ensure that people who are driving actually are licensed, properly licensed.
Right. Before I let you go, there's two questions I'll ask. Going back again, now because you say there's an inquiry going on, you still cannot say, but you have preliminary investigations of what exactly was being carried, but you cannot yet say until these investigations are concluded. This vehicle was moving from where to where?
The indications, we have this vehicle was moving from Mombasa and possibly to Uganda. It was a Uganda-plated vehicle.
So whatever was in the vehicle was loaded in Mombasa?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you know then? Why would you need investigations for that?
Because where it was loaded, we didn't say it was at the port of Mombasa. We're just saying that from the information that we got, the vehicle was going from Mombasa to possibly Uganda. And that's where we are saying that we're investigating in terms of where it was, actually ownership, and of course the material as well as where it was.
So you don't know where it was loaded as well?
No.
You wouldn't know where it was loaded. No. But you would also check with the port if there was such a vehicle and it was loaded, and what it was loaded with? No,
certainly not at the port. No, certainly not.
It wasn't at the port. That's what you're saying. It was never loaded at the port.
No, certainly not.
All right. And what? Because people have been asking this, and I'll read a tweet here from Andrew Carris, who says, "I wonder tankers or trailers, although this was a canter, are not allowed to use the Kimende Naivasha route. Some say that vehicle wasn't supposed to use that route. What vehicles are supposed to use what route and at what time?"
That vehicle was, as we call them, the light trucks. Light trucks are allowed to use the main Nairobi-Nakuru highway. The vehicles that are not allowed is actually the trailers, the trucks. So when you're talking of the tankers, those have to use the Mai Mahiu route. Yeah. So this vehicle was actually on the right route.
But you wouldn't know if there was enough warning signs on it of what exactly it was carrying?
Exactly. That
should happen.
On this specific, since it was just a canter ferrying from one destination to another, I imagine that that's probably a vehicle that was in transport business, so they wouldn't necessarily label. So that's why what I was saying before, the need for us to both investigate, but as well as ensure that the policies around how to carry hazardous or inflammable materials are well established as well as cascaded to the relevant people.
Right, and our condolences again to family and friends. It really was a terrible tragedy. But thank you so much for making time for us, PS.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah.